Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Royal News Network and our weekly live streams. I'm so excited that you guys are here. There's been a lot of royal news going on this week, so I'm so excited that you are here to join me. Just to give a little recap of this week, we have obviously Catherine, the Princess of Wales, had a couple engagements, including giving a poppy to a little boy, which I thought was so cute, and I featured in a recent video. And then we also have the lead up to Remembrance Sunday. So we'll see the royals tonight at the Remembrance. I can't remember what it's called exactly. Maybe you all remember. It's the Remembrance kind of service concert that they do every year. So that will be this evening, and Remembrance Sunday will be tomorrow. Then we also have kind of the chaos in Norway with the princess who is dating a shaman guy. So that's been rather interesting. Especially reading about him. I have a video that I'm working on right now for that, and just a lot of other random news. Harry and Meghan on another list. They're the nicest, kindest people, I guess, according to Hello Magazine. I'm like, oh, what did you guys want from that? That was kind of funny. Oh, and Meghan, she's not a bitch, guys. She's not. She's not difficult though either. She's particular. She is particular. And I also have like a whole video I want to do about her comments about being a nerd, because it's like, I am a nerd and I don't feel like being a nerd describes her. But I will let you guys know already, I'm actually in a hotel room. I actually came away for the weekend. So if I lose internet or something, I am so sorry. And Miss Pippa is here as well. She's busy monitoring the halls of the hotel. Well, not the actual halls, but she's hearing other dogs and watching the outside, making sure we're all safe here in the hotel. So good morning, Renee. Good morning, Cindy Lou. Good morning, Devo. Good morning, Asama. Oh goodness, I am slow today. Sorry, guys. Freedom Fire, yay! Good morning from Florida, Dorothy, Yolanda from Mexico. Oh wow, sorry again. Hotel room and dogs. Yolanda, yes, I already said Yolanda. Lee, good morning. Revik here, born from Vietnam. Hello. It's always amazing to see you guys all here from all over the world. That's so fun, I think, because it's just going. Royals have the opportunity. They bring people together, guys. They bring people together. They're awesome. Hi, Allison. Just wanted to make sure my mic was on, so I wasn't talking to dead air here. Fatima, good morning from Somalia. Oh my goodness. Wow. That is an incredible location. That's so cool. Now there's been a lot of conflict there, so I hope you're staying safe. Lee, good morning. Blanca, Ritz, good morning from Chicago, Tennessee. Carrie from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Missy, yes, all the early morning birds. I will say, because it is a holiday-ish weekend. I know some people have it off, some people don't. It all depends. On Veterans Day was yesterday, so it all depends on your company, whether or not they actually celebrate it. My company does, so it was kind of nice to get a Friday off. Jennifer, good mornings, and looking through here. Josh, good morning. Linda, B-Level Baby, happy from Singapore. Judith, yay. Nicoletta from Scotland. Oh, I love Scotland. I want to go back. I have the trip to London scheduled. So I need to do a whole video explaining kind of what that will look like and everything. And the next trip, I'm hoping, because I do need to get a certain number of participants in order for the trip to be confirmed. But once, if I can get all that and everything, I'd like to do a trip to Scotland sometime next year. So that would, I think, be really fun, because I love Scotland. Scotland's gorgeous. Nikki, Patricia, Betty, Janice, JBL, good morning. Rids, our favorite royal historical. Brittany, good morning. Anyone tried the Wittard's cocoa yet? Oh, yes. If you guys haven't tried Wittard's, I don't have it any here today, because you do need, make it with milk. It's better with milk. But they have a whole bunch of hot chocolate varieties. And I actually just tried the cinnamon not too long ago, because I had held on to that one because I wasn't sure about it. It was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. So Gemini, Barb, good morning. Dizvan, Arian. Yes, you made it to the live from Sydney. Oh my goodness, it is late in the evening there. So if you need to go to bed or fall asleep, I do not hold it against you in the slightest. Sleep is very, very good. Karen, good morning from Scotland. Linda, Nicole. Oh, He got this notification a few seconds late. That's fine. It totally works. Rowan Khan says, hi, Brittany, love your channel and your opinions. I have a question. They say she bullied the staff, but why does the royal family still invite her to important events, send her birthday wishes? So yes, this is a very interesting question. And I understand there are two sides to it. And I totally get why people are frustrated with the royal family that they continue to invite her to things. But Meghan has somewhat cushioned herself in a way, because right now, if you cite racism as a reason why things aren't going perhaps as well as you'd like them to, people tend to kind of cower in response to that. So I feel like that she's been able to use that pretty effectively. But I also feel like the royal family, they're a family. They want to support Harry. They love Harry. I don't think any of them are fond of her in the slightest. But they need to protect Harry the best they can. And I feel like as well, what they've been able to do is the royal family continues to look like the bigger person here. Harry and Meghan continue to look petty, vindictive, narcissistic, whereas the royal family is like, hey, we know this is a challenge, but hey, you can still come here. You can still do X, Y, and Z. We won't hold it against you at all. And I feel like that's a really smart way to go about things. And as well, I feel like Meghan anymore, although she thinks she's done nothing wrong, I still think she's probably very, very sensitive to the criticism. And so she probably acts nice to the staff, and she doesn't have any personal staff anymore that she can bully in terms of actual royal staff. So she has her own staff. She can be as nasty to as she wants to, because it's they can quit if they want to, and they're just working for Archewell. They're not working for the palace or something. But I think there is a complexity as well, as if you're working for a palace, that is a particularly a job that's seen in high esteem, and you're not making quite as much. So I feel like there was an effort more to defend the royal staff palace people there. And again, I don't think she gets much of an opportunity to do that anymore. And I think she's been kind of firmly, I think they watch her very, very closely. So she just doesn't get as much of a chance. And so hold on just 1 second. Here's my co-host. Say good morning, Miss Pippa. Okay, sorry. She just kept wanting to come up here. Okay. Sherry says, I just heard the Montecito house has sold. I have not heard that yet. So that'll be interesting to see if that is true or not. Rhonda, good morning. CJ, good morning. Lori, hi from Boston. Yes, and I plan on being in Boston next month. Okay. All right. She's going to fuss at the neighbors. Teresa, good morning. GB, good morning. Patty, Jacqueline. Phew, just finished the poppy video. Good, Lee. I'm glad you liked it. I was kind of at a couple, and I really wanted to do that one, and I thought maybe it went a bit too long and it got a bit too convoluted, but it's okay. And I want to say to you guys as well, if you have any questions or something you want to discuss, feel free to put it in all caps, and that will help me find it, and we can perhaps have a little bit of talk about it. So many people from all over the world. I am, and again, always so impressed by everyone. Oh, Ilraz1234, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. Oh, I really appreciate that. Oh, and Grammy just received my first order from Whittard's. Oh, I hope you like it. I really do. They are excellent. Again, use milk. It's not a water thing. You'll be, I think, hopefully very enthused. I love Whittard's. It's my favorite. Marcella says, good morning. Did you see Meghan's podcast is dropping in the charts by the day? I knew it was just the hype of the moment. Yes, I've been noticing that. And I think a lot of other people have too, including Spotify. And I feel like Spotify artificially puts programs they want to be seen as number one on the overall podcast list. But when it comes to episodes, I feel like they debut lower, their staying power is lower. And I think part of it is that the media covers so much of it. It's like, well, why do I need to watch it? I can just listen to the media talk about it. And then the other thing you get to is that, she's not, I think it was Piers Morgan interviewed Jordan Peterson about Meghan. And I think it is very true. It's like, she sounds so sanctimonious and she talks down to you. And I feel like a lot of people are starting to notice that more. Thankfully, the more she talks, I feel like the more she reveals herself unnecessarily and the less people like her. So she's really her own worst enemy in that way. And so she is, I think it's something where people just aren't finding any nuggets, because when you listen or watch the well, I guess you can't watch them. When you listen to the podcast, it's basically one giant narcissistic ego trip where she's just talking about how nobody recognized her or elevated her the way she thought she should be, or that people called her something and it's like it just wasn't true. It wasn't true. There was just no self-reflection. There's no self awareness. And so I feel like people are like, well, people don't say something just to go, oh, I don't like that person, so I'm just going to say X. No, people say something for a particular reason. There's a reason you had a reputation. There's a reason people didn't like you. And I'm sorry that I am sure is hurtful and frustrating. At the same time, that's life. There are people who will not like you. I had a restaurant job once, and this guy just thought for whatever reason I wasn't seating his section the way he wanted me to, or I wasn't seating it enough. And I mean, honestly, I didn't think that was anything. So one day I was like, okay, well, he's expressed frustration that I'm not giving him the tables he wants or whatever, or they're not filling up for some reason because we had a bigger restaurant. And so I put it, unfortunately, one day I was like, okay, well, I'll give him like 2 big parties. And of course they didn't show up. Or they showed up super late, and he got like really mad at me because the other guy was getting seated. I was like, I'm sorry, I tried to give you 2 parties and they didn't show what you want me to do. So there will always be somebody who doesn't like you. And there's just not, certain people clash, and that's the reality of it. But I feel like Meghan just cannot even fathom that people don't like her, and can't even understand why things went as badly as they did. And I think that is her Achilles heel. The more you hear her talk, the more awareness you have that, oh gosh, she doesn't sound like the nicest person. Or she's just not somebody who's seeing what's really going on. Allison said, you will see all the poppy petals fall in the audience if you watch the Remembrance concert from Royal Albert Hall. Yes, it looks like an incredible ceremony. I'd love to actually attend that, or to go to the Royal Albert Hall. I almost went last year, and then my flight got canceled and everything like that. There was a whole big thing. I was like 24 hours behind my London trip for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. It was awful. If you're following me back then, my following was much smaller. It was like, I literally got on 3 different planes until one of them finally took off. And I technically boarded 4 times. I boarded 1 plane twice and 2 planes once. And I got kicked off 3 times. Not me personally, but they had maintenance issues, so they kept kicking us off. And I was like in tears, because like even the second day, like the first day we got canceled and we had to go to a hotel anyway. The second day we were on the flight, and then it's like delayed. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. If I miss it, there's not going to be another one. But they did end up, I will say it was Delta, and they did end up refunding me my entire trip due to the problems. And I think because I also paid for the refund option, I think that's what saved me as well. Kimberly says, have you watched The Crown season 5? So I do not have as much free time as I'd want to. I watched the first about episode and a half, and I did a live stream on it, sharing some of my initial thoughts. I thought it was dull, to be honest. The first couple episodes I watched were incredibly dull. And I was just like, okay, I'm like kind of done. I'm just not that interested in it. It's just like, how can you take this time period, which was very scandal heavy, and make it so banal and so boring? I'm like, come on, guys. And there was this one bit, and I don't know why it bugs me, with the Queen in the newspaper. I went out of my mind, because it's like they wanted to hide this newspaper from her, as if she wouldn't see it at some point. And so she walks in, she literally has her hand on it, and they pull it away, and they kept making excuses why she couldn't see it. And I was like, is this a sitcom? I can totally like, why are you doing that? She's so totally saw that. And it was just like, oh my goodness. It was crazy. Michelle asks, I have to ask, are you married? LOL. No, I am not. No, I am not. Yeah. Chris asks, it's the Royal British Legion Festival of Remembrance. Yay. Your analysis is always spot on. Meghan gave a game away about herself in the engagement interview. I think she really did. I think some people were aware of who she was, or that she was probably going to be a problem in the engagement interview. I don't know. I clocked her from the beginning. she just struck me immediately as a Hollywood wannabe desperate for fame. And apparently my thought on her was spot on. But I think it revealed so much to people. And I think people did get a bit frustrated by just seeing what she was saying in that interview. And I think that's that she just really, I mean, just saying, well, I haven't looked at anything. I don't just wanted to know if Harry was nice. I didn't look into him at all. I was like, oh, please, for Pete's sake, any of us anymore. Everybody has Google. You troll somebody's Facebook page if you're going on a date with them, or Instagram, or whatever you can find about them. LinkedIn, even you troll them. So the idea that she didn't try to figure out anything about Harry, that's just such a joke of it. Jat, hello from London. Looking forward to hearing more about your trip next year for the coronation. Yes, so I will be going to London next year for the coronation. I don't have my airplane tickets yet, but I do have my hotel reservations. So those have all been officially made. And it was like, I'm so excited. I do have the reservations in June too, like early June, because that was the debated about date. And obviously I will maybe cancel them, but I'm wondering if they'll have the Trooping of the Color that month too, because that's when they would traditionally have it. So we'll have to see. I'm just super curious. So I thought I'd hang on to them, because maybe I'll go. That's right after the London trip. If anybody wants to join, I will do, again, a whole video explaining what we're planning on doing. And then, but the Trooping the Color would be after that. And so I wouldn't mind seeing that new Trooping, because it was fun last year. Got there super early at 6 o'clock in the morning. I should have maybe gotten there even earlier, but I was right outside the exit of Clarence House. So I saw all the Queen's children, except for Andrew, obviously, all up close, because their cars drove by. So that was really cool. Katja, hello from Denmark. Hello. Beach Randa, the royal family is in it for the long game. Yes, it is absolutely a long game situation. And that's what the monarchies are best at, because they can think 20, 30, 40, 50 years ahead. Meghan Markle, I don't think she did not plan her whole thing well. My suggestion would have been to Meghan is to do it for 5 years at least, because you need at least the British people behind you. She didn't do that. And so if they end up pulling the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles, I don't think anybody in the UK really, except for some small pockets, will really put up a fuss. I think at this point, pretty much everyone's over it. And they're like, we don't really care anymore. So I think she made a massive mistake by overestimating her own influence and her own, I think, potential in Hollywood. There was a reason why she wasn't necessarily super successful before. And that should have been just an awareness of her part. Being aware of your deficiencies and your strengths is a really, really smart thing, because especially in business, that will get you far, I think. Fatima, thank you. Oh, good. I'm glad. Good to see you. It was Jewel says it was a lot of a person to people quit left, right, and center. Yes, so a lot of people quit. Quit Meghan, Jane. It's a kill them with kindness approach. Yes, the special type of kindness that's only so deep. Okay, so MSR says, is Harry's lawsuit against the UK government still on? As far as I know, yes. We have not heard any updates about it, but as far as I know, that's still rolling through the system. I think some of the parameters have probably changed. But again, it's just, especially with all the austerity measures I think people are facing, the energy crisis and stuff, does anybody really want to pay for a prince to have his security? And I'm sorry, I don't care what Harry says. The taxpayer will pick up the fund in one way or another. It's incidental costs, it's time of scheduling. Like, there's just no way that they're going to escape the costs of actually having to pay for Harry and his family. Even if he says he pays for it, it'll probably be minimal. And I don't think he ever really wanted to pay. That's my personal opinion. I don't think he had any interest in paying until it was like, oh no, you can't do that, where you would have to pay for it. He's like, okay. Or he just, I think they even said, like, it wasn't until after it became public that he said, oh yeah, I will pay for it. So I think he was hoping to slide it under the radar, and then that he wouldn't have to be on the hook, on the line for those costs. So, which I think again is just kind of sad, because it's like he's just wasting, I feel like, the taxpayers' time so much. And that's an important thing. These government officials have more important things to do than talk about your grievances and help you help make your wife feel important. That's not what their job is. That's not what their job is. They have more important things to do than cater to your every whim, Harry. Okay. All right. Okay. Has Harry met Meghan's father or siblings at any point? As far as I know, the answer is no. He has not met any of them. And I feel like, again, unless your family is there was a story recently about a child found in a cage outside of a home in, I want to say it was North Carolina, maybe. If in a case of an abuse like that, I could understand why you're not super fond of your family, but we have no indication that that's anything like what Meghan experienced at all. She seemed to have a great childhood. She went to private schools. So she seemed to have just a great childhood, and all of a sudden it just all went to heck. It just seems like there's more to the story, I think. Michelle, hi all from London. Hello. From Iceland. Nice being sunny here. Winter day and chat. Yes, it is sweater weather for sure. Oh, Nicole H. Oh, and I figured out how to put it up there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the tip. Yes, the cinnamon smell is so festive. I think you're talking about the what is it? The Whittard's hot chocolate, which is fabulous. So we'll try to do this again. Okay, so Azima asked, why is race blamed for every negative comment? No one gets 100% positive coverage. That's so true, and especially for royals, that's exceptionally the case, is that they don't get 100% positive coverage. Nobody does. Catherine's coverage for years and years was awful. It really was. And she would be called names and different things by the paparazzi, and they'd stalk her and going, leaving either a club or sometimes just arriving at the airport or just trying to go to work. They would surround her. So I feel like Catherine has dealt with the press in a way that I don't think Meghan can even dream about. And Catherine just, she just walked through it, and eventually it got better. And Catherine will receive criticism from time to time. That's just the name of the game. And especially because as a royal, you should think of yourself more like a government figure rather than a celebrity. Meghan wants a celebrity thing, whereas pretty much you do kind of get almost 100% positive coverage unless there's a scandal that comes up or people are like, I don't really like XYZ or something. Other than that, you pretty much get a positive coverage, but royalty is not the same. Royalty, you're kind of like a politician. People expect certain things from you. They want to see certain things from you. So I think that's a really important distinction to make, and one that Meghan just didn't understand. This is from Jody from Down Under. Hi, Jody. Why was Mohammed Al Fayed's featured so much in The Crown? I think it was. They seem to want to focus on the negative things. I don't know why they would focus on him quite so much. As far as I'm aware, Dodi and Diana's relationship was like a month or two old or something when they died. So it wasn't like they were even that close, but it was obviously a huge thing at the time, and I think they could perhaps play into some of the racism narrative there, because Harry's played into it with his mother. So that would be maybe something they're looking to do, but I'm not sure. Okay, I got a little wiggle worm, but she'll one up from time to time and they get upset when I put her down. Okay. Hello, Brittany and Pippa. Yeah, so this is my dog Pippa, if you guys haven't seen her before. So she's watching the outside. Michelle, hello, Brittany, love your channel. Oh, thank you. Rid says maybe the royal family are doing what they can until Parliament makes a determination regarding potential stripping of titles. Just saying. Yes. So the royal family does have to make there is something moving through Parliament, I guess, that could help make it easier for the royal family to remove titles. And again, I think this is something that should be done overall, because all the royal families are dealing with kind of difficult spare situations. So we have Denmark, we have now Norway as well. And the royal families have to protect themselves the best they can. So they have to figure out how to, when it becomes necessary, strip somebody of their titles. So that way that fear is there for the future, I think. So you don't have an Andrew situation. You don't have a Harry situation where they say, hey, if you do not follow these certain specifications, at some point, you will face the consequences of that. And that could be stripping of your titles, stripping of certain privileges. Just so I think that there's a fear there, and I think that fear is healthy. Okay, just looking through. Ariel, hey, from South Africa, love your videos. Oh, thank you. Remember how Missy says, remember how Melinda Gates' advisor, Catherine St. Laurent, went to work for Meghan, lasting only a couple months with her before she left? Yes. So she only lasted a little bit of time. So they seem to cycle through employees very quickly. Still that's an issue for them. And I think that's a symbol of a greater problem. Jewel T, hearing entitled people like Harry complain about how he has no money and is entertaining yet angers people at the like that at the same time. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so Renee asks, what is the backstory to the American who is engaged to Martha Louise? So his name is Durek Verrett, I think. Durek, Durek Verrett. So I did a video on him, and I just read a little bit about the New York Times because I had heard that most people were like, yeah, he's kind of a con artist, shaman guy. And they had done this cool tour called The Princess and the Shaman. So at least the Brits don't have to deal with that, right? And Martha Louise, bless her heart, is loosey goosey, is I think the nicest way to say it. She believes that she speaks to angels and that she can help you speak to your guardian angel. I believe she thinks she can talk to dead people, and that she's an empath and maybe clairvoyant or something. I can't quite remember everything. And so she is been always odd. I don't think it helped that sadly her ex-husband committed suicide on December 25th. So right on Christmas. She had 3 daughters with him, and she had started dating Brett before that point. So they had met and started dating in 2018. Her husband committed suicide in 2019. So it was quite a sad situation. But Durek Brett, he claims he's half reptilian and Andromeda or something. And then he also sells amulets. One of them is $222 that can apparently protect you from COVID. But oopsie doopsie, it didn't protect him from COVID. So he ended up coming to the conclusion that COVID happened to him because he believes that you invite diseases to you. He believed that COVID was a sign that he was overworked. And I mean, you can't overwork and make yourself sick. I'm not doubting that. But I also think that you should not be selling an amulet that you say can protect you against COVID when you get COVID yourself and you made the amulet yourself. That just doesn't seem like the best thing. So it's just one of those things where it's just like, he's just a little very, very questionable. And there was just a lot of pushback of Martha Louise. She has her own things that are kind of similar, and she just keeps going through all these and he relayed that general consensus and question that people are getting. Sorry, I saw a black screen, so I may have faded out. It just seemed like it was short, so hopefully y'all didn't miss too much. But it was just one of those things where I feel like they're both very into alternative medicines and thought process. And he also thinks that you ask yourself to have cancer, that you invite cancer to yourself in some form or another. And so, he would apparently go around hospital rooms or something and ask people, why do you have this cancer? And I'm like, okay, I don't think children ask for that. I even knew somebody who had an infant with cancer once. Former coworker did. So I don't think an infant that's less than 6 months old invites themselves to have cancer. So it's just been an interesting situation. I feel like it's kind of sad. So they've basically stripped her of she still has her titles, but she no longer can use her princess name in any business things. And I think she can basically only use it in like if she's going to a family public event and it's not like big gala dinners. I don't think she'll go to state visits anymore or anything like that. So they basically become persona non grata in Norway, and I think that's okay. So Nicole asks, "Hey Brittany, do you think the royal family will ever release a statement at any point about the behavior of Harry and Meghan?" I think if they strip the titles, they may. I think that's when they would do that. They would say, okay, the behavior has come to the point where it's really putting us in a really bad light. It's pulling the monarchy in disrepute, and we cannot allow this anymore. Ergo, we're stripping X, Y, and Z title, or we're adjusting how they'll be reacted to in public. I could definitely see that, but it'll be interesting to see when or if that happens. We just don't know yet. But I think their behavior will be a point of discussion and contention at some point, for sure. Fatima asks, why was the title taken away from Meghan? So it was not, so she can use still the Duchess of Sussex, but she can't use an HRH. So her Royal Highness or Harry can't use his Royal Highness. So it is a downgrade, and it means people don't have to curtsy to them. So I think that is something that was very frustrating to them. Obviously, that did happen to Diana as well. She was stripped of her HRH, but definitely a different situation, and she was divorcing Charles. So it was just one of those things that was kind of difficult. But if Harry's stripped of the Duke of Sussex, Meghan automatically becomes Princess Harry. Now, I could see again the monarchy saying, we've made the official decision to avoid disrepute on our side by saying officially Meghan can only be known professionally as Meghan Markle. She cannot use the title Princess Harry unless she is doing an officially family function. So that's going to the Platinum Jubilee that they went to, the coronation, funeral, something like that. Those are the only times she can be known as perhaps Princess Meghan. That would be my suggestion to the monarchy, but hey, that's just me. That's just me. Yeah. Elraz asked, where can you order the hot chocolate links? So I can find it here real quick. I would love to make them like an official sponsor. Oops. There's company. Willard of Chelsea. So I just put a link in the stream, and obviously it's 10:31, and that was about 20 minutes ago. So I'm slowly going through the comments, guys. Suze asked, where does she live? He has a place in San Francisco in his name, maybe a perk from Better Up. That could be I haven't actually heard that he has a home in San Francisco with his name. I wouldn't want to live in San Francisco if I was him. But I just want to be surprised that they're slowly starting to disentangle themselves in a business sense, because I feel like, again, they don't have a ton in common. And Meghan has done a lot of things that are just Meghan recently. And I know it's partly to promote her podcast, but the podcast for Spotify was originally supposed to be done together as far as we're aware. I'm not aware of that they were going to be in it separately, because their trailer was together. They had a whole little bit that they did for Spotify where they were together on a couch. So I just don't understand how it went from Harry and Meghan being together and doing all this to all of a sudden they're not doing anything together at all, it seems like, anymore. So that's really is quite interesting. Okay. So my relative works, so this is Blessings Heavenly. My relative works for Spotify and stated Meghan Markle first podcast ratings were cook. Narcissistic will never believe they're wrong. So I guess that means not good. I could see definitely it not being as good as they were hoping it would be. And think about this as well. Meghan's podcast is only on Spotify. So that means she's missing the market in Apple, Amazon. There's several other markets that do podcasts. And I would say Apple is the biggest one. I use Apple. I only look at Spotify for the Meghan things, and that's it. And I'm surely not going to pay extra for anything from Spotify. So I feel like if I was Spotify and her ratings aren't gangbuster based on the fact that she's only on their channel, her ratings have to be massive. And if they're not, then they have a really big problem, because if they can only find it there. Like Joe Rogan's podcast gets 11 million views per episode. I don't think Meghan's even touches that. And again, it's not easy to listen to. It's boring. It's so self-absorbed that it's hard to get a nuggets for you from it, because the purpose of the podcast sometimes, especially the way Meghan is promoting it and marketing it, it's supposed to help you. It's supposed to help women. And I just don't feel like it's helpful, because so much of it is wrapped in Meghan. And Meghan's experiences, Meghan's desires, Meghan's wants, Meghan's dreams, Meghan's frustrations, all these sorts of things that if you're the listener, it's like, well, people generally don't call me the B word. I'm definitely not seen as difficult, but I actually had a supervisor once say I'm one of the easiest people he's ever worked with. So so I don't have that much to gain from it. And I feel like a lot of other people feel the same. Yes, there's the train wreck mentality, the car crash mentality where people like to watch the disaster. So I feel like they get some of those, but people either hate listen to review it, they tune it out, they're just waiting for the media to talk about it. Or like me, sometimes they start just reading through the transcripts because she takes these long, breathy pauses. And it's just so overwrought and dramatized that it's hard to engage in. And her interview skills are subpar at best. They're not very good. So listening to her interview somebody is really difficult. And what the other thing I found was really interesting is that Meghan, when especially in the Mariah Carey interview, if the interview is not going the way she thinks it will, like Mariah was like, I'm a diva, I don't care. Meghan doesn't know what to do with that. She literally has no clue what to do with that. And so she, I think, kind of in a way panics because she's like, well, this is an episode about being a diva, and I was called a diva, and I don't want to be called that. And you want to be called that? And then when Mariah kind of said, well, honey, you're a diva. And Mariah meant it as a compliment. Meghan like had a little mini meltdown in her head because she just could not, like, she's like, my butt was sweating. And she's like, I was fidgeting in my seat because it was so devastating for her to have her be called a diva to her face by Mariah Carey. And it's like, Mariah didn't mean it as an insult. And you're too stuck on yourself to actually see it as a compliment. It was. So again, awful, awful interview skills from Meghan, I feel like. Okay, just looking through some of the comments here. So Renee Norwalk is saying the Montecito estate is on sale on YouTube this morning, but nowhere on the internet. It sounds inaccurate. If it's for sale, I mean, obviously we are able to find out what celebrities generally own properties. I've seen that a lot. If Harry and Meghan are selling the Montecito estate, I would not be surprised. I think they overspent on it. I think they got something that was much bigger than what they needed, and was also just in an area I didn't feel like worked for them really. If you're trying to be in Hollywood, why would you live in a place that's like 2 hours away by the highway? And if you've never been to California and never experienced California traffic, it is horrible. It's like a little bit of purgatory, I feel like. It takes you forever to get anywhere, especially during rush hour. Rush hour, like I went to California for a conference once, and I stayed in downtown LA, and probably not the best part of town, in part because I didn't want to be so far out of town in a better area that it took me an hour and a half, 2 hours to get in for my training every morning. I just thought that would be awful. So I stayed in kind of the Hollywood area in an okay place, wasn't great, but it only took me about 5 or 10 minutes to get there. One day after we were done, it was, obviously after 5 when the training ended, I thought, well, I'll go to the Griffin Observatory because I've never been there. I spent 45 minutes in traffic and got like 2 miles. So I turned around and went back to the Grove because that was the easiest thing to find. So I don't understand, especially if they're trying to make it in Hollywood, why they would live out in Montecito, which is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's really not, but it is. It's a good trek to get there from Hollywood. And they don't have the money like, Kylie Jenner to rent a jet or have a jet to take them just like the Kardashians are taking jets to get out of the traffic, and other celebrities do that too. And so it's just Meghan and Harry don't have the money to do that. They got us, I think, a charity once to pay for that, but I don't feel like they can do that all the time. So I don't understand quite their business decision. So, and again, I think it's too much property. I think they probably are burning through their money, considering the security, the upkeep, everything. And it's just not, I don't think, the best decision in the world. Asma says the TIG was basically a shrine to the British royals. I don't know necessarily that was true, but yeah, Meghan did make the comment that she was about Kate's wedding, and I think Meghan. I mean, I've looked through, and she interviewed at least one princess. Well, she didn't interview, I should say. She sent to their publicists like 7 inane questions to ask them, like, what's the first thing you do in the morning? What book would you take with you to a deserted island or something like that? So she would ask people that. And I always feel like, okay, you're seeming like you're getting something really deep from them, but you're not. But that's so Meghan. Oh, Monique Johnson, love your channel. Thank you. This is an interesting question. MAPG. Do you think The Crown was edited because of the backlash? I don't think it probably was. I think they actually, I think they were excited because the Queen's death definitely would raise interest in the crown, and it did because they were filming it at the same time. So a lot of people were really interested. However, there could be some things that they did change, but I mean, they just did something as dumb as editing and changing the Queen's Annibus Horribus speech. And this is a speech that is on very much on public record from 1992, but they edited it. And I was like, and they changed it up. And as somebody explained, to reference a fight that the Queen had with Margaret. And it's like, that's something totally unnecessary. You don't need to do that in the slightest. Why would you do that? It's just makes no sense. So I don't think they did much editing to it, but I could be totally wrong. Oh yeah, and FYI in this, he says in January 2020, Harper's Bazaar had an article on Gwyneth Paltrow's shaman Durek. Also, Selma Blair and Nina Dobrev are his clients. So that is, yes. So he has been definitely around, and so he's, I mean, shaman guy. I can't deal with that kind of stuff. Jenny Wright asked, hi, Brittany, have you seen the photoshopped photo of Harry and Meghan at Remembrance Day? Apparently it was from the Invictus Day last year. I don't know if it was necessarily photoshopped, but yes, I did see the photo and I commented on it. And my frustration was, okay, Harry is a British soldier. It's the American flag and the U.S. Marines in that picture. And I get it, it's technically the U.S. Veterans Day yesterday, but you're British. You're a British soldier. And their comment had no reference to Harry's time as a British soldier. It was so banal. It's like, we support all troops all over the world. And I just remember thinking, you need to talk about the British troops, the troops that you served with, Harry. Just don't to make this banal statement. And yes, I get it. You had the Invictus Games, but there's no reason why you can't talk very briefly about your time in the service and representing your home country's troops, and then moving on to saying, well, the U.S. troops, other troops, those sorts of things. I don't think there's any reason why he couldn't have done that. And when I saw that, I was really frustrated by that because I thought, no, I just don't think that was really appropriate. Okay. Shush. Okay. All right. Let's go see. Mary, thank you so much for the tip. You are so kind. Thank you so much. Rena Kimford says, remember when she once said, don't give it 5 minutes unless you'll give it 5 years? Yeah, if Meghan had given it 5 years, I think she'd be in a much better spot than she is. I think they could have made it to the point where George was getting older and there was just a natural progression of, or even 5 to 10 years, natural progression of, hey, George is getting older, Charlotte's getting older. We know our son, the time in the monarchy is setting. So let's just go and do something else. And then granted, I think part of it was Meghan wants to still pursue her Hollywood dream. And so they're like, well, hey, maybe you can finally get to this level. And so Meghan was like, oh, okay. Well, she wanted to get there while she was still young, quote unquote. Not that you can't be young and 40 in Hollywood. That's not what I'm saying, but just generally the roles that she was getting cast as, she was aging out of. And that's not being mean. That's just after a certain point, unless you either are really talented, have a huge following, after a certain age point, you no longer can be the sexy young thing and have a good acting job. So that, I feel like that was what Meghan was running into. So I think she thought, well, if we can leave now, maybe I can finally get my shot. And that was just, I feel like a massive mistake. This is an interesting question from Sue. Is Her Majesty, or I guess His Majesty now, Secret Service spying on the Harkles? I think they watch them very closely. I wouldn't be surprised if they have been watched very closely, but I don't feel like there's a huge concerted effort to go after them yet. Because again, I think Harry and Meghan are their own worst enemies, and they proved that over the last year or so, that they're their own worst enemies. Just give them time to fall flat on their faces. That's all the monarchy needs to do, is just give them time. Give them time. They'll do it themselves. So Tamara says, Meghan Markle's echo chamber does not serve her well in making decisions. I think that's incredibly true. I think Meghan's decision-making is much like, I feel like the rest of the media, is that they only listen to themselves. And people who agree with them, and so they don't know like the middle swath of the country. That's why I was really surprised Meghan was doing something in Indiana, because again, she's one of those people that the middle of the country is a flyover territory. What that means is people, especially from the coast, fly over it and don't think anybody in the interior matters. And I don't think that's the case. And I think they're finding out that, hey, those people in the interior, yes, they do matter. And they do vote and do different things. So I feel like there's an echo chamber, and the media doesn't understand why they're not popular. Like there's this whole big thing in the United States right now that the late night hosts, their ratings have dropped like a lead brick recently, because pretty much they spend the whole time either schlepping for the Democratic Party, or they're making fun of Republicans or people who have similar Republican ideals. And it's not an equal opportunity poking fun at thing. It's not an equal to opportunity humor event. So I think people disengage with that. That's why right now the number one late night host is Greg Gutfeld from Fox News, which I think is really funny. It's really funny. John Alvarez, hello everybody from Yonkers. Mary Diven, they give people poppies on military bases in the U.S. around the world on Veterans Day, usually from veterans organizations. It's a good remembrance. It is. I think it's a wonderful remembrance. I still love. I have a poppy. If you haven't watched my poppy video yet, you should. I have a poppy I got in Guyana, and it was. I actually asked the receptionist for if they had an extra one I could have, and I believe she gave me hers, if I remember correctly. So that's something that I was really excited about, because I had seen the poppies. I knew Broyles wore poppies, and that was a big thing. And so I was really excited to have one, and I still have it. Lisa, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. Do you think, True Scandinavia says, do you think Meghan will leave Harry for some additional 15 minutes of fame, possibly alleging abuse or absurd claims of abuse from other royal family members to exact revenge? I could definitely see her going down the more desperate route as things start to implode, which I feel like they are already starting to implode for them. Again, I've said this before, that I think Meghan it was a huge blow for her when Catherine became the Princess of Wales and Camilla became queen, because Meghan, in her mind, they were all equal because they were all duchesses, and now Meghan's very clearly in third place. So I feel like things get almost more outrageous, will get more outrageous in a way, because they have to. And I think she is always chasing her 15 minutes, and she hasn't reached her peak yet, which was she really wants to be uber super famous, and she wants to have an Oscar caliber role or be in a great film. I feel like that's always what she wanted. I mean, she can't act, so that's a real big problem, but I think it's one of those things where she'll figure things out as things go along. Oh, thank you so much, Mama Otter. Thank you. Thank you so much for the tip. Curious on your thoughts. Charles wanted a girl, and I can't help but wonder, in light of everything, if his relationship with Anne versus Andrew was part of that reason. Watching Charles and George Charlotte dynamic at the Jubilee funeral made me wonder. Oh, I could so see that. And I think too, a lot of families they have a boy, and it would be nice to have a girl. And I think Charles too, we know from his history that he is not really a rough and tumble kind of guy. And he's very, I think, sensitive, and he's very he's, I think, a guy who would have been a great girl dad. I think that would be something he really enjoys. Not that he doesn't love or enjoy his sons at all, but I think he would have, he's one of the ones who really wanted a girl. And I think so. And I think he really treasures his relationship with Kate and with Charlotte. And I think as well too, he's pretty close with Anne, and I feel like they had this really strong bond together. And we've seen this throughout, obviously, as well, the Queen's funeral. And Anne, I feel like, because Andrew has been he's so crashed and burned, that Charles has had to rely more and more on Anne, and I feel like he appreciates her that much more. I will say, though, when it comes to the sibling dynamics, Andrew and Edward were born 10 years after Charles and Anne. So they were a lot younger than them. So Andrew and Edward could almost be seen as their own a different pocket of siblings, basically. So you had the older two siblings and the younger two siblings, and they're kind of almost separate in a way. So I feel like that's something to consider in the dynamic as well. But I think that is super sweet that I think Charles did really want a girl. And I think he would have been a great girl dad. I think he would have really, really liked it. I would bet he probably dotes on Charlotte quite a bit. And although I will say too, I think Louis is a huge fan of Papa Charles because he loves sat on Charles's lap during the Platinum Jubilee celebration. So I think that's really sweet. Jody says from Down Under, I would love to see King Charles invite Thomas Markle to the palace. Imagine the uproar from the Harkles. That would be funny. I don't think he will, but that would definitely be funny. Elra said, did you see the article pictures of Harry with bruises? Comments. I remember somebody mentioning this, and I have not seen pictures, and I can't. So I'm not really going to go into anything that I think on that particular situation without seeing the photos. I could speculate, but I don't think. I think there would be more screaming matches than anything else. That's just my personal opinion, but I don't know. So is the stripping the title is only referring to the Dukedom of Sussex? Yes. I don't think there's a real easy way to strip Harry of the Prince title, and I don't think they really need to. Martha Louise still has hers. Joachim still has his, although his children's have been stripped, and this is in Denmark, and then Norway is the comparison. But I don't know how easy it is. Some families are different, and it could be a declaration or could not, but it's just one of those things where it's difficult to say whether or not it's really. I don't think Charles would want to go that far, but I do think definitely stripping the Dukedom of Sussex would be beneficial, because honestly, if Meghan could tell me where Sussex is, I would be utterly and completely shocked. If she could tell me where it is and tell me 5 things about Sussex, it would be crazy. Because I really think she knows nothing about it. Absolutely nothing about Sussex. This is Joel T says, seeing the Romanov family would be best to strip those who are not in the direct line of succession. I can see it, yes, and I can see no. I don't know. It's kind of fun. I mean, I wouldn't, if I had a princess title and I wasn't in the direct line, I wouldn't want somebody to strip it from me. But I can also see where it'd be problematic. But I can see where, if you do have that title, you are held to a certain standard, and that certain standard means you cannot do whatever you want. So if you want that prince or princess title, yes, you can have it, but there's a certain standard you must uphold. And I think for some that would be really hard. Anna Maria, yay, finally made it to the live. Greetings from Germany. I love your channel. Harry looks horrible, always so angry. I love the crown, but season 5 was quite a huge disappointment. Yes, I feel like a lot of people felt that way, and I was glad too. I was reading through things, and a lot of other people said it was boring, and it was really, really dull. And I was like, it is like the carriage driver thing with Prince Philip, and I'm like, do we really need this? Is anybody really clamoring for the history of Prince Philip's venture into carriage driving? I really don't think there is. And it was so they could, allege this relationship between him and Penny, and I don't think it really went that well. It's just, I don't know, it's just tacky in my opinion. Julie Blackman, thank you so much for the super sticker. Julie, you are so kind. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, just reading through. Sorry, my Jenna Johnson asks, why is Harry acting like such a spoiled brat? Does he not realize he is super privileged? I don't think he does. Well, he's not going to be king, guys. He's not going to be king. So ergo, he is underprivileged because William has the privilege because he's going to be king. Harry's not going to be king. Ergo, no privilege. He doesn't know how people live, and like, I don't know. It's just it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, he has really no clue. He has no clue how anybody else in the world lives. So looking through more comments here. Martha Louise's husband say children with cancer be sick. He's another. Yes, he is. Yeah, I'm not a fan. We complain about Meghan, but I think he's to a certain extent worse. But he's almost easier because this is Martha Louise's fiance. He's almost easier to dismiss, and she's easier to dismiss because they're some of their beliefs are so unique and outside the realm of what most people do believe. Not that you can't believe in ghosts and those sorts of things, but it's like, saying that, well, if a child has cancer, that is because they wanted the cancer, is ridiculous. But they're a lot easier to kind of get out of the way in a way, because, or to say, well, you need to strip the titles and kind of go away, because they know nobody else will believe them or agree with them. So I feel like that does make them, I think that's almost better in a way, to make them so outrageous that it's just easier to kick them out, and everybody's like, they give you applause on the way out. I think Harry and Meghan, again, I think Charles needs to do it, strip the titles and stuff, but I think it still will, to a certain extent, probably blow up in his face to at some point. And it will, or it just won't be a smooth transition. I don't think they'll do what, because Martha Louise and her fiance did a whole video explaining everything, and not in real detail. They still were defending their positions in a lot of ways, but I don't think we'll get such a video like that from Harry and Meghan. Hi, Olivia Robinson. I'm from the UK. I respect Camilla. She has stood by King Charles all these years. But if the Queen didn't change the rules to allow Charles to marry a divorcee, then they wouldn't have had the debacle with Meghan. I don't think she necessarily changed the rules on divorce, because Princess Anne married her husband before Charles married Camilla. So I think she was softening to that before. And you have to think as well, when Princess Margaret got married, it was 1960, early 1960s. So they had just had the abdication of King Edward the VIII, just a couple of decades before. And that perhaps seems like a long time, but it was a huge, huge blow to the monarchy at the time. It was a massive, massive scandal. It was huge. There were a lot of questions. Would the monarchy survive? Would they be able to go forward? So I think we sometimes underestimate the impact of something like that change. So I understand why at the time the Queen was hesitant to allow Margaret to marry Stuart Townsend, and there was just a lot more conservative sentiment at that point. But after her own children divorce became more acceptable in society. It became to a point where the Queen really couldn't hold anybody else to that standard. And I agree that Camilla has really done an excellent job just supporting Charles and the family. I think she hasn't stepped a foot wrong, and I think that's been a really, really good thing. Caitlin says, good morning, Brittany. Did you see the black and white photo of the Markles released? Yes, I'm thinking you're talking about the recent one for Veterans Day. Again, I feel a tinge of irritation for my British brethren that Harry chose an American photo. And again, I get it. He's in the United States now, but it's like, so are you totally giving up everything related to Britain? Because if you are, then you just need to let go of the title. You need to let that go. So it's this weird limbo thing where Harry and Meghan seem to be doing one thing rather than the other. And it just doesn't work, I don't think. So just looking through the comments here, and Brittany, so this is kids relevant. Don't you think Charles III will go on the offensive and start allowing them to make him look like a chump? I think, he's not hoping that that happens, but again, he's Harry's father. I understand that he wants to protect his son, and I don't fault him for that. And again, sometimes I think the hammer will come down at some point. I think it'll get to the point where Charles has to do it, and William will force his hand, saying, you have to do this. And it's just for the good of everyone. And so I do feel really, really sorry for Charles in this situation, because I think it is hard. It's hard to do that. It's challenging. Think of your own family. Do you want, your parents to, like, they need to give him a road back in. So I don't fault them for doing that at all when it comes to Harry. Chateau Paper Crafts asks, at what point do you think Harry and Meghan run out of people who will work for them? At some point, I think their reputation's already getting around Hollywood. And I don't think it's a good reputation. And after a while, once you have a bad reputation, especially in a business like that, it gets around. Hollywood's a small community. So if they're really difficult to work for, if they're pains in the butts, if they don't get things done, if they're so demanding that you can't actually get a product together because they keep changing things and their requests are either silly, or it's like one thing where I was watching an episode of Frasier, and I can't remember who was messing with the lights, but somebody was like, oh, we're going to do mood lighting. And so they start moving things and like, oh, that was good. And they're like, oh, no, change it. And they go up and down. And after a while, they just start, the person walks away from the switch and the guy keeps going, oh no, that's better. Oh no, that's even better. Oh, wait, change it. That's bad. And so he's talking as if the light's changing, and it's not. And I feel like Meghan's one of those. She's pegging on such tiny minuscule things that you change it all the time and it's still never good enough. And I feel like that would be really challenging. I worked for somebody who's somewhat like that. It's like I felt like I could never ever please this person, and it was just hard because it's like, what do you do? I don't know. Like anything I do, I feel like is wrong. And so if you can't do that, then it's just really, I mean, I don't know if you've ever experienced that. It's just kind of awful. It's an awful feeling because it's like, especially if you're like me and you want to do a good job and you can't, you feel like you can't. It's just really hard. So Jennifer asks, what is your opinion about the situation with Mike Tyndall? I debated doing a video on this, and I may still because he's on there now. So I have the feeling of he's not a working member of the royal family. Never has been, never will be. So he gets security like other family members do at big events, but that's it. And he's made his own career. So he was not internationally famous, but he was famous in the UK. So he's different than Meghan, because Meghan did not have the international claim she seems to think she had before marrying Harry. She didn't have that. Nobody knew who she was. I follow Hollywood pretty closely, no clue who she was. I know about people. I've never watched a single thing they've done, listened to a single piece of music, but I know their name. I know at least somewhat what they look like. I knew none of that about Meghan. So she was not, without the monarchy, she's really doesn't have anything. She doesn't have any claim to fame. The situation's different with Mike in that he was famous. He was somebody that the British people knew on sight or on hand. And so I feel like the situation with him and Meghan is very different. So I feel like his perspective on the game show, he's going there as himself, but I also think to a certain extent perhaps wasn't the greatest idea, but maybe he couldn't handle maybe the timing was something he couldn't change, but he's doing it for charity. He is a nephew-in-law to the king, but he's no longer the grandson-in-law to the queen, which I feel like is a closer relationship. And he's never said anything bad about the royal family and never talked too much in any way that's not kind and gracious. So I feel like that makes a difference as well. Natalie, is there still so this is talking about San Francisco. In the comment earlier, is there still poop on the sidewalk in San Francisco? The answer is yes. Apparently there is. I walked around San Francisco once not too long ago, or several years ago actually, and it was actually not bad, but I think it's monumentally worse. And I walked around a lot of it actually. It's a very beautiful city, I will say, absolutely. Kids Relevant asks, why do you think anyone guests on our podcast? Well, I think they're somewhat honored to get the invitation. And I think some people are just not aware of Meghan's, like, the visceral reaction, or they think that Meghan is that it's all wrong. And then they're actually spend some time with her and they're like, oh, well, no, maybe it's not, maybe it isn't. Maybe some of the commenters from people are right. So I think that's what people are experiencing. Oh, Kids Relevant. Oh, thank you so much. You're doing an amazing job, young lady. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. I did just take a sneaky picture of my dog. She was sleeping on the little couch there. So I took a little sneaky picture. Maybe I'll share it on Instagram later. She's finding spots to sleep while we're talking. Asma says, is Harry in therapy? I think, actually, this is a crucial question because I don't know if he is. Because with Better Up, it sounds like he's in the coaching stuff. He's not really in therapy anymore. And coaching and therapy is not the same thing. It's really not the same thing. And so I feel he needs to be in actual therapy, not just in coaching. I feel like that he's not is a big problem, because he really needs to be in there, because he really, really needs to, I think, have some serious therapy. And if he's just coaching, the coach, all they do is give him positive affirmations. That's what a coach does. Perhaps they challenge him on one thing, but they're not a psychologist. They're not a psychiatrist. They're not a counselor. Their basically job is just to go, hi, and why don't you do X, Y, and Z? And if he doesn't do it, they're like, well, that's fine. But it's just not challenging. And I feel like the way that's all that constructive to Harry's personal growth. But that's also just my personal opinion. That's just my personal opinion, so take it for what you will. Okay, just going back down through the comments. There's so many. Oh, Shirley asks, what do you think of Meghan using the crown on her stationery? Well, I'm sure she ordered 10,000, 100,000 copies of stuff. So that way, when she left the monarchy, she would still go, well, I still have the stationery I need to use. If I don't continue using it, it'll just go to waste, and that's a waste of paper. I can somewhat see that, but it's just cringe to me. It's so cringe because it's like they're so desperately trying to be royals. But they voluntarily left. It was their decision to leave. So why? Why do you keep trying to do this? It just makes you look silly, in my opinion. It just makes you look really silly. It just really, really does. Because you left, you volunteered to leave. But again, Meghan just really absolutely is obsessed with it, and yet left, but is obsessed with still being seen as the Duchess of Sussex. But she needs that because again, she didn't have the influence on her own. So Marcel asked, was she really a big Hollywood name though? What else did she do besides Suits? No, she was not a big Hollywood name. The idea that she was this, I feel like that to me too was really what set me off from the media, was like they kept talking about her as if she was this huge Hollywood star. I'm like, she was in Suits. I've watched Psych, and it's also on the USA Network, which I feel like Psych has a even bigger cult following. And because you can still use like the avatar, the two main characters, Gus and Sean, on Peacock, I think it is. You can use them as your avatar. Sean's my avatar. And I love that show. And Suits didn't not have that level of dedication. So, and I know the people from Psych, they're not big names. None of them would be people that you would go, oh yeah, X person. James Roday is probably, and Dule Hill are probably the biggest names out of it now. And Dule Hill was on the West Wing. So, and he actually did go on to Suits. And so he was probably the biggest person on Suits really before Meghan got that extra boost with her title. But she was a no one in Hollywood before then. I mean, the biggest thing she had was a 30-second gig on Horrible Bosses. That was totally forgettable because I had seen that movie twice in theaters, one day after the other, and I owned it. And I had no clue when they said she was in Horrible Bosses. I racked my brain trying to think of when she was in that movie because I couldn't think of at all when she was in it. Oh, Jacqueline Longo, thank you so much for the super sticker. Jacqueline, you were so sweet. Thank you. Kids Relevant asked, Brittany, do you think Harry thought he was getting a Kate? I think he maybe thought that in his weird mind, but yeah, I feel sorry for the guy. I feel like he's really lost. He needs some help. Poor guy. I do feel sorry for Harry. And just because it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, Harry. Oh, Crystal asked, can you tell me about the red flower they wear? So yes, it is a poppy, and it represents all those who have been lost basically in combat. Specifically, it started after World War I. So I have a whole video talking about it that I uploaded earlier this morning. So if you want to check that out, actually it was 12 o'clock last night. So if you want to check that out, I share a little bit about that and World War I. And so if you are interested in that, feel free to check that out because I explain it a little bit more, because there's a lot of long-term history, especially with laying the bride. So every royal bride, she lays her bouquet is laid on the tomb of the unknown warrior. This started with the Queen Mother, who laid her flowers on the tomb as she was entering Westminster Abbey. I actually amended it in my comments because I had said that she left it as she was leaving, but no, it was as she came in. So she's the only royal who walked down the aisle without a bouquet, because she had given it to the tomb of the unknown soldier because her brother had died in World War I. And I tried to amend it, but my Adobe Premiere Pro, I need to have like a Premiere Pro class or like a text session, because currently right now I can't add extra video with audio in it. And that is so fun. That's so fun. Yeah, I had to add the bit with Kate in a totally separate. This is my complaining. I need to maybe investigate the Apple one. I had to add it in a totally separate Adobe Premiere Rush. So I had to open up a totally different system. Oh, it's awful. Selena says, I went and looked up for things Meghan was in, all bit pieces. Yes, huge bit pieces. Again, nothing of significance whatsoever. And that's not to be, again, mean to her in the slightest. She was a working actress. She hustled. I can't deny her that. But this idea that she portrayed herself as is that she gave up this huge Hollywood career. apparently Tom Bauer was saying in the book, like literally nobody was calling. As Suits was ending, she could not get any more roles. And that's because after a certain age, you have to have a certain look. You have to have a certain set of skills, or else you will just basically, because you have to be, once you get past a certain age, you can't be the hot young thing, and the hot young thing can't be the only thing you can do. So you have to be actually able to act. And that was her Achilles heel, is her lack of acting abilities. Julie, if I didn't thank you, I think I did. Thank you so much for the super sticker. If I haven't thanked you already, I just want to double check here. I'm just pulling through the last bit of my comments because I'll probably wrap up here in a minute because I'm out of town on a bit of a vacation. But I do enjoy doing these so much because they're so fun. They're so fun. Hi, Patricia from Australia. I know it's probably late. Kids Relevant asked, did Diana give Harry the spare nickname? The spare nickname thing had been used before, so I don't think it was necessarily something that was specific just to Harry. That's been around for quite a bit. And there's been some famous spares. Queen Elizabeth I was a spare. King Henry VIII was a spare. His brother was actually supposed to be king and had married Mary first, and then he died. So it's just kind of interesting, all these royal dynamics. And the spare thing is a huge issue for a lot of royals, and they struggle with it. They really do struggle with it. Happy says it's good that Charles has Camilla as his support. I'm not sure Charles would have been so heartbroken to have his second son being torn away from him and have a relationship be so badly broken. I think having a good relationship with Camilla, and especially William. I feel like William and Charles are in a really, really great spot right now. And I feel like they've really enjoyed being together, and they've developed this fantastic relationship. And I feel like that's something that bodes well for the monarchy in the future. Again, I just love the picture of Charles leaning his head on William's shoulder. I think that's just such a cute picture. And I'm excited for them as they've gotten older, that they've been able to develop this really great relationship. I think that's really, really fabulous for sure. So just scrolling through here. Scrambled Egg, love your show. Thank you. Den says, I had no idea she existed when it came to Meghan. Yeah, me neither. Nobody did. Jacqueline, I think I thank you, but I'll thank you again. Thank you so much for the super sticker. As I'm just going through here, making sure I didn't miss anybody. Scrambled Egg, oh, thank you so much for the super sticker. You were so kind. Dennis, are you going to Boston? Yes, I am. I have my flights booked and I have my hotel. I had to change my hotel because my hotel is now closer to the event venue, because I was originally thinking it was going to be at the JFK library and it was not. So I have to pay about double for the hotel now, but that's okay because it's like a couple blocks from the venue. And I think that'll be much better than trying to battle traffic to get back into town. So I'm really excited about it. I've been to Boston before. I enjoyed Boston a lot. There's a lot of history. So I'll be doing hopefully vlogging. I'll be broadcasting from I shouldn't say from the event, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of other people here, but I'll get coverage from the event. So I will be outside. I will attempt to maybe get press credentials, but I don't know. There's no way to request that from Earthshot on their website. No way to get to it from the royal website. I feel like they enclose those quite a bit, and I'm sure they do that so they can avoid like a massive influx of a ton of press requests. So I may have to try to go through like the city of Boston or something. I'll try a couple of different things and try to see if I can figure out who to ask to get press credentials. Or, even if it's not, I'm still standing like 50 feet away or something. If I can maybe be in that little press bucket with all the other photographers or something, that would be awesome. Or even just a nice like photo call or something would be great. Freedom asks, Freedom Fire, thank you so much for the tip. You say enjoy your vacation. Thank you. I'm enjoying it so far. It's been fun, and I will hopefully maybe have a picture or two to share, because I'm actually at a very interesting place that I feel like has a royal resonance, because it's not necessarily connected to royals, but it's the closest you can get to a big royal house here in the United States. So I'll let you see if you guys can guess where I am. Allison, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so sweet. Lizzie says, thank you so much for the tip as well, Lizzie. I can't believe Meghan talks about kindness and still won't speak to her father. It speaks volumes that Harry hasn't met his father-in-law yet. Love your videos. Thank you. Yes, I think it's I mean, golly, I would really question if a person I was dating didn't want me to meet any of their family, because I'm like, why? And if you watch true crime shows like I do, you know what a huge red flag is generally is that they don't let you visit family members, or they don't want you to meet any of their family members, and even any of their long-term friends. That's a huge, huge sign of things being perhaps wonky behind the scenes. So, Willie Billy, thank you so much for the super sticker. Patricia asks, "Are you staying at Castle Goring?" No, I am not actually. I'm not even sure where that is. LH says, "So bummed. I joined late, slept in due to illness." Oh, that's fine. The nice thing is it's available on the live stream, so that's you can always watch it again. So Barbara asks, "Could Harry have been busy recording for his audiobook? Are you visiting the Biltmore? I have connections since I attended Vanity." Yes, he's probably recording the audiobook, or he has already recorded it. It'll be interesting to see what that is, because I found it fascinating that he was recording his own audiobook, but not surprised either. And your question to the Biltmore, yes, that is where I am at right now. If you guys haven't been to the Biltmore, it's in North Carolina, and it is basically the closest you can get to a grand European house here in this country. So it's a really, really pretty place if you haven't been before. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys again really, really soon. And yay, I'm so excited to continue to this. And I can't wait in 2 weeks, state visit from South Africa. So we'll have new tiaras. We also have just a lot of stuff coming up with the Remembrance service this evening, Remembrance Sunday tomorrow. And so for many of you who usually watch my fashion videos as well, I do not have a royal fashion video for today. I'm hoping I have it for tomorrow. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again so soon. Bye.